Hi, and welcome back to Toadstool Tarot. Like many other Rider Waite Smith deck collectors, or some might say fanatics, I am constantly on the lookout for, I want to say, the Holy Grail. That's not to say the most vintage version of the deck, or the most authentic version, but the deck to which I can most relate. Now, up to now, my personal all-time favorite, as any who know my channel know, has been the RWS 2.0 designed by James Ricklef, which I have here. And it's available at makeplayingcards.com. Recently, I discovered another deck, a little bit similar, at makeplayingcards.com, and I bought that one. It's called the WS Tarot, and it's a different coloration of Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork. This one is colored by G.J. Short, and I will put the link in the comments below. I'm going to show you these decks side by side so you can see the similarities and the differences. First of all, the cards are the same size cards, but not the same thickness cards. The RWS 2.0 is on Make Playing Cards S30 stock, which I love, and I actually had my own deck designed and manufactured there because I love the feel of these cards so much. This deck, however, is on a linen stock, and some people love linen. It's nice. I don't like it as well. It feels thinner, and you can tell that the thickness of the deck proves that it's thinner. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell with me holding them up side by side, but the 2.0 is the equivalent of about 8 cards thicker than this linen WS Tarot. Now, the deck on the label card says WS, and you see a little 2 there, WS2 Tarot. On the website, it just says WS Tarot. I don't know what the 2 indicates, or whether it's a second edition or what. The title card says the author A.E. Waite, illustrated by P.C. Smith, colored by G.J. Short. The black and white images used here are from the Pictorial Key to the Tarot, published in 1911. I really like, let's go with the pluses and minuses. I really like this back design. I've always liked the crackle back design. I'm never completely thrilled with the design on the 2.0. Both decks come shrink wrapped, no boxes, no little white books. The WS Tarot is, I want to say $32 or $34, something like that. And I think the 2.0 is 24 to 26 or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But you can look them up and check. There is a price difference. And I expect that's due to the linen stock versus the S30 stock. But they may have the creator may have set their own price. I'm not really certain. So let's get on with the cards. Like I said, I really like the back design. I love the coloration of this new deck, and it has some similarities to the 2.0 in that the line work in both is very good. The atmospheric colors in the backgrounds, it has a little bit of almost a 3D atmosphere to it. This deck, the colors are amazing. The colors almost remind me of the Radiant Wise Spirit a little bit, and well, you'll know, you'll see on cards as we go that there is, it's much more subtle in this deck than this deck. The almost three-dimensional atmospheric quality in the backgrounds. Now this one has, it appears to use Pixie's font on the labels. This one doesn't. This one doesn't have any copyrights. This one does. This has a beautiful atmospheric bleed off the edge of the card, which I love. This has a black border. You can, if you don't like the black borders, you can trim this deck readily, you know, and get rid of those borders. I don't think I would. I actually like the way that they frame the cards. You can see the color difference. Some of the finer details vary. For instance, the flowers on the cloak on this one are red dots, and on here they are yellow flowers with red patterned centers. If I had three hands, I would show you this three-way comparison with the Radiant Wise Spirit or the Dirty Pam. I don't own the Dirty Pam, but I believe it's the same as the Radiant Wise Spirit. So here you can see the color difference. They're both very bright, very bold, very vivid colors. This RW, what's it called? WS Tarot is a lot more blue and a lot less yellow, I think, in some of the backgrounds. And a few of the cards, I believe, have been horizontally flipped. I very much like the coloration of this new deck. This one has some gorgeous atmospheric background. So, I mean, so far I think I've stated the plus and minus differences that I like. I don't care for the linen. I do like the S30. I don't like the backings on these. I do on these. I don't like the copyright on these. I do on these. I prefer Pixie's font on these to the one used on these. But I still think that the line work is a little bit sharper on the 2.0 in some cases. And some of the shading is a little better handled on the 2.0 than here. Some of it's a little flatter. But it does have just gorgeous coloring. The blues in it are the sort of almost somewhere between turquoise and aqua blues, which you'll see when we get to some of the night sky cards. It's almost unfair to do these side by side because James has done amazing work with the sky atmosphere, and it is so subtle in this deck that I'm not sure if you're going to pick up on it with my camera. Some of the little tiny details are different. See if I can catch them when they come up. Looks like the font on the card numbers is a little bit different. It might have been better to do a side-by-side with this and the Centennial Edition, or like I said, the Radiant Wise Spirit. This tower is gorgeous. I actually like it with the black background, the black border, and the devil was great too. I recently saw a walkthrough by Simon of the Hermit's Cave of the Neo Rider Royal Edition, a royal version of the deck, which had coloring that I really liked, which I'd be curious to see side by side with this deck because they seem to have some similarity, real boldness. You can see a little here in the rays of the sun, the sort of alternating different hues of yellow, and the face is a little bit different. Okay, now here is a difference. I think I said a couple of the cards had their orientation switched. Not sure why. Here's one of them, the Ace of Wands. Not only is the background color different, but the directionality of the card is different. Don't know why they did that. And here, I don't know if you can see, there's a very, very faint atmospheric halo around this figure, and it gets a little bit darker the further out you go. The colors in the backgrounds, there's a very subtle difference. You can see it here too, I think, if you look towards the sunset here. It's a little paler, lighter than darker up at the top there. Some of the details in costume colors and patterns are a little bit different. I would say the color palette of this is gorgeous, and it's much more subtly affected than this one, which is more in your face, more blatant, more kind of awe-inspiring. But I just love the color so much. There are actually maybe 2 or 3 cards in this deck that I don't like the coloring on so much, and there's not a single card in this deck that I don't like the coloring on. The palette is just beautiful. I think what I might do, since I'm doing this as a side-by-side, I'll put links in the comments for both these decks. Although you will have seen me cover this one 2 or 3 times already on my channel. But still, anybody newly discovering it or deciding during this side-by-side walkthrough that they prefer this deck to this one, you'll be able to find them both. I did a little simple search and had a lot of trouble finding this deck using the search by the title and Make Playing Cards, so I think it will be helpful that I put the link there. Now here's another difference between the deck, not only the orientation, but in the Pentacle cards, you can see not only is the direction switched, but the handling of the star is different, which you may or may not like, that the star is not a drawn line. It's like an outline of a star as opposed to the typical depiction of the star in the pentacle. It follows through in the whole suit that way. Some may like that, some may not. And also these stars are gray, not yellow. I tell you, if this deck was on the S30 instead of the linen, I would be very, very hard-pressed to choose this and put this aside. I mean, the atmospheres and the 3D effect in this are so dramatic that I still love it. I still think it's at the top of my list. But this one really gives it a run for its money. And I particularly love the little touches like, you know, the back design, the crackle backs, the no copyright, the pixie font. Here's another one where you can see the pattern on the dress. These are flowers on stems with leaves. These are just little, very detailed, tiny flower patterns. Just the blossoms. This deck has a lot of the moodiness of the Radiant Wise Spirit in terms of the darker color. Now that's a beautiful moon card. This one has, you know, lights radiating in from the center, and this one has light sort of emanating not from the seated figure, but from the moon, which is really nice. There's a very different take on the storm. There's a gray day versus the blue one. If you have a traditional version of the Waite Smith Tarot, you might want to pause the screen and compare the coloration to the deck you have. Again, the line work on this new one is very, very good, but I'm still finding details in the 2.0 that I don't find in any other deck. Here, for instance, the zodiac symbols are on the little blue squares of the coverlet, and you can make them out very well on this one. This one not quite as complete information. I mean, you can make them out, but they're almost pixelated, whereas the lines on here are very definitely filled in. Don't know if you can tell. My camera's probably not good enough to distinguish that. Here's one I noticed that I actually did a double take on. This queen, in this card, it's hard to tell if that's her hair or a covering over her hair. In this one, you can see her hair is a different color than the covering or headdress. So you can see where her hair actually is and where the headdress is different or separated from it. Here you can see the details in the butterflies on the throne are much more distinct here. think I like the color of this rainbow better than this one, but the sky isn't as bright. This is another one that I thought I liked the coloring in the costume better, but they're very similar. It's the sky that's, this one seems more flattering, the color in the costume in relation to the sky, versus this one always kind of put me off. Maybe it's because of those yellow, greeny, orangey colors in relation to the sort of pinks and blues. And our last card, the King of Cups. I reordered these decks. I'm not sure if they come arranged in the same sequence, but, you know, that's sort of inconsequential. I just put that in there so you could see them side by side. I arranged that ahead of time. And this has an additional blank card in this deck. So, that is the difference between the two decks, the RWS 2.0 and the WS Tarot. Which one do you like better? I will, as I said, I will put the links to both in the comments.